knows how you come across somebody once in a while you shouldn't have messed with. That's me.
I am not an African American.
You're an Oreo cookie, white in the inside and black on the outside.
I don't have an afro, I have an Amerifro.
Talking that idiotic stuff you talk about, I will slap you.
Go ahead, make my day.
Black as the ace of spades, but 100% American.
Heard around the world by everybody and their mama. The Jesse Lee Peterson Radio Show.
Uniting the racists with truth instead of dividing them with lies. We're also rebuilding the family by rebuilding the man. It is Friday, Get It Off Your Chest Day at 888-7753-773. You can also go to my Facebook page, facebook.com/Jesse Lee Peterson. We're going to get to your calls here in a minute. It is Open Line Friday, so we will get to your call. But first, I have a few minutes with my guest here, Reverend Jim Wallis, President and Chief Executive Office of Sojourners, a Christian social justice organization and popular magazine. He is a best-selling author, a public theologian, speaker, and international commentator on ethics and public life. And also the New York Times article says that he is Obama's spiritual advisor. Reverend Wallis, welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. I wanted to talk to you about I read that you support the Occupy Wall Street protesters. Why do you support them?
Well, support them. I've been to visit them. They're part of really, I think, a cry from a lot of people in this nation. The economy is unfair, unsustainable, unstable, and making lots of people unhappy.
A lot of them don't know why.
Issues no one else is.
A lot of them don't know why they're there. I've seen several reports, and we've gone out. I've sent my reporters out to talk to them here in L.A., Occupy L.A., and they don't seem to know why they're there. And why do you think that is? Why are they there and don't know why they're there?
No, they know why they're there. I talked to a lot of them. They don't have a list of demands yet. They don't have these concrete things. That'll come over time, but they know exactly why they're there.
Do they know? Do you know what they want to accomplish?
How about a fair economy? How about a sustainable economy? This economy is broken. It's not working for most of its people. That's a problem.
What's a fair economy? You said they want a fair economy. What is it, and how would they tell when it's fair?
Well, a fair economy is when people are getting jobs, and the poverty rates just came out a few weeks ago. 50 million people are in poverty in this country. 50 million, first time in 50 years. It's been that many people. 22% of all our children are poor in the richest country in the world. And so that's not fair. That's wrong. And here's the fact that no one talks about. 3 out of 4 of those people have jobs. They have jobs. And they just don't have jobs that pay anything. I'm giving you an answer. The contracts used to be 2 pages long. Now they're 30 pages long. And those extra pages are to cheat us. And that's why Elizabeth Warren was head of a a financial protection agency. And she wouldn't approve by the Republicans because she wants to make credit cards fair.
But why don't the people just not use the credit card? You know, my grandparents taught me to just have one credit card in your pocket. In case you want to buy some gas or take a flight somewhere, you have a credit card. If the people don't use the credit card, then the credit card company would change its rules.
You know, I have one credit card in my family, and we use it just for cash flow.
Right.
We pay it all by the end of the month, okay? I can do that. I have a salary that allows me to do that.
So why don't those people on Wall Street that are protesting Wall Street do the same thing rather than going after the company itself, the companies? This
economy is unfair, and banks and companies have behaved, some of them, in a criminal way.
Let me ask you this, Reverend, and I'm rushing because of time here. We're about to come to the first break, but how come they are not going after the politicians who accuse the banks of being racist and force the banks to give out loans under Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac to blacks and Hispanics who could not afford those loans to get homes. And once they did it, they didn't pay the loans back, and the market crashed as a result.
Not what happened, Jesse.
Why is it that they're not going after them?
Because that's not what happened, Jesse. It was banks on Wall Street. Listen, I talked to these guys. They tell me, I wrote a book about this, and the guys in the banks come to me like Nicodemus at night. And they say, Jim, it's even worse on the inside. The finance industry used to be 10 to 15% of the economy. Now it's 40%. That's money making money without making jobs.
Let me take a quick break, Reverend. We'll come back to you. 888-77. I want to talk about sojourning to you as well, with you as well. 888-77-53773. Back in a moment. 888-775-3773, 888-77-JESSE. Welcome back to the show. I'm talking with Reverend Jim Wallis, President and Chief Executive Director of Sojourners. I read that you are Obama's spiritual, at least one of his spiritual advisors. Is that true?
No, it's a New York Times exaggeration.
Oh, so do you...
I was on the President's Faith Council with several other people, Joel Hunter and Rich Stearns of World Vision and lots of folks.
Let me ask about that. Are you disappointed in that within the 3-year period of Obama being in the White House, he has managed to destroy the economy? We have the worst job market forever, ever, and a day. He has managed to turn America into a socialist society almost. Are you disappointed in him?
Come on, Jesse. That's just Tea Party rhetoric, Jesse.
What do you mean Tea Party
rhetoric? Yes, it is. He came into a mess. He came into an economic crisis caused by George Bush. His tax cuts and his wars. His tax cuts and his wars are half the deficit Bush's. Obama came into that. I think he should have provided stronger, tougher leadership on Wall Street. He should have sent the Attorney General to Wall Street with a pair of handcuffs.
But how was he going to do that? He's gotten more money. He's gotten more money from Wall Street than any other president. How was he going to be any tougher with him than what he was?
Wall Street caused this economic recession. Wall Street caused it.
So you don't blame Barney Frank, the Congressional Black Caucus, and others for putting pressures on banks to give loans to blacks and Hispanics who could not afford them, and ended up crashing the economy. You don't blame them at all.
Jesse, that's just Tea Party stuff. Come on, man.
Well, you keep mentioning. What's your impression of the Tea Party movement? You know that I formed before you. You know that I founded the South Central LA Tea Party. Did you hear about that?
No, I didn't hear about that.
Yeah, what's your impression of the Tea Party movement?
The Tea Party movement is just the far right that we've always had in this country for a long time. I'm glad to hear there's a black member. I hadn't heard that before. It's not a place where black people normally feel very comfortable. So
why not? Why don't they feel comfortable?
Well, the surveys show that the Tea Party doesn't really like people of color very much.
But the surveys lie. The survey don't believe that, Reverend. They're lying. There is no proof of that.
How many black members are there in the Tea Party?
I don't know, but there are a truckload in the South Central LA Tea Party. Everybody and their mama, blacks, Hispanics, old, young. So don't believe the liberal media, Reverend. They lie to you.
I'm not talking about liberal media. I'm talking about who I see speaking for the Tea Party all the time. They're always white people.
You haven't seen any black people?
Speaking for the Tea Party on the news now.
That's not true. Absolutely not true.
Yeah.
You heard of Herman? Have you heard of Herman Cain?
I've heard of Herman Cain.
You know, he's black as the ace of spades, and the Tea Party movement support him.
Herman Cain told the kids on Wall Street, if you're not rich, it's your fault.
And that's true.
That's not true. It's an unchristian, unbiblical thing to say. The Bible talks about the poor who are poor not by accident because of the behaviors of people who are wealthy and powerful. That's biblical.
We'll take a quick break. We're coming back, and we're going straight to the calls for Reverend Jim Wallis right after this break.
She hears only whispers of some quiet conversation.
Okay, folks, my final segment with, I'm Jesse Peterson, by the way, and we're going to get to all of your calls, Open Line Friday callers. My final segment with Reverend Jim Wallis. He is the President and Chief Executive Officer of Sojourners. Reverend Wallis, before we go to, we have a few calls for you, and there's a lot of other folks who want to get it off their chest. Tell the folks how to get to your website to get more information about Sojourners and what you're doing.
It's just sojo.net, S-O-J-O.net, sojo.net. Sojourners is a movement, an evangelical Christian movement that talks about putting faith into action at home and around the world. We've been doing it for 40 years.
Let's go to
and I was a white kid that a white church got kicked out of my church over the issue of race. And I was, I came back to my faith because of the civil rights movement. Martin Luther King Jr. was and is a hero of mine. And I heard on your show just now that people saying the civil rights movement was a blight on black people. I mean, what's he talking about? Who said that?
Black people were better off, except for that law thing, black people were better off then in many ways than they are today, in that they had fathers and mothers in the home, the grandparents were around. They didn't rely on the government. They didn't have some black leadership telling them what to do, how to think, when to speak and when not to speak, who to vote for, who not to vote for. And they were not morally bankrupt. They were not relying on the government. And today, and I'm sure you would agree with this, is that most black people are suffering not because of racism, but because they're morally bankrupt.
No, Jesse, that's just wrong. I mean, William Wilberforce, when he led the movement, the Wesleyan movement in England to free the slaves, he didn't just say, "Now you good Christians don't own slaves." He said, "We got to end the slave trade." Martin King said, "Now you good Christians don't just discriminate. Let blacks eat at your lunch counters." He said, "No, this is wrong. Jim Crow was wrong. Jim Crow had to be defeated by political action, and a lot of white Southerners didn't like that.
But a lot of white folks did, though.
They had to be forced.
But
they should have been forced.
But Reverend, there were many, many white folks who did support black Americans, and there were some who did. It was mainly the white government
who did.
Right. It was mainly the white government in the South who did not support black folks. It wasn't the regular folks.
And that had to be a movement to end Jim Crow.
But you got to admit, though, black people are relying on the government to a point of self-destruction. Okay, hold on for me here. Let's go to Steve out of Atlanta, Georgia. Steve, you're on with Reverend Wallis. I've
been listening, and it seems like you are probably stuck right there at that Martin Luther King cuspis of what black. And I got to inform you, because you're connected directly to the president, that we have, I guess, a variance of issues that don't fall under the Martin Luther King civil rights part. What we suffer from going forward is fatherless homes and the empowerment of black women over black men. And since the civil rights era, and if you look at that as a changing point, black men were the ones who had to raise up, congeal, come together, and fight for our rights while we brought our women along with us.
Let's get a quick response, Steve, because we're running out of time with my guest. Reverend Wallis?
Well, fatherhood has been a principle, commitment. I'm a dad. I'm a Little League baseball coach. In fact, my boy's pulling at me here to go play baseball with him.
Jim, this can't be expressed through your experiences. We're talking about something that's totally different from your life. Now listen.
Let me do this. I'm so out of time. Reverend Wallis, we're going to have you back.
Obama has made fatherhood a commitment more than any president before him.
His agenda on the White House website is for women and girls. That's on the White House website.
Yeah. Reverend Wallis, thank you so much,
sir.
Two
different things, my friend. Look up the fatherhood website.
This has been the Jesse Lee Peterson Radio Show, produced by Bond Action. To find out more information or to purchase the full version of this show, visit bondaction.org or call 1-800-411-2663.